Hello, this video is designed to teach faculty how to use Zoom meetings to meet live with students. One thing that's important to know about Zoom is that it is based upon the type of licensing that you have. You're welcome to make a free personal account, but there are some limitations, particularly that the sessions can only be 40 minutes long. The school does have department Zoom accounts that you're welcome to use, and those are not limited to 40 minutes. It is important to note, however, that if you are using a department shared Zoom account, you have to coordinate with others in terms of when you're using the account because one person can't be hosting a meeting at 2 and the other person be hosting a meeting at 2. It'll kick you all out. So you want to make sure that you are coordinating your times as to when you're using and hosting sessions in that Zoom account. The next step is to log into your Zoom account. Now you can use Zoom via the web-based program, so just going to Zoom on just opening a browser and going to it, or you can download the application. And you can do that by coming to the top here under Resources and download Zoom Client, and that will open it up as an application on your actual computer. And they do the same thing. So here's what it looks like as an application on your computer, and this is what it looks like if you actually go to the Zoom website. It's the same thing, it's just a preference as to which one you would like to use. So when you log into your account on the web, the first thing that you might want to do is upload a profile picture. So you can come up to the top right and choose the name of your account, and then you can upload an image here. The other things that you might want to do is to schedule meetings or to view your recordings. Those are the two main things that you'll use. Meetings is where you go to create a session to host, and then recordings is where you go to view the recordings of the sessions that you have already hosted. So let's create a meeting. So we'll choose meetings over here on the left side. We'll choose to schedule a new meeting. And then we're going to fill out this form that's going to tell us and going to set the session up to our liking for the actual session. So you want to give it a topic or a name of the session. So it could just be Friday meeting or monthly faculty meeting or whatever you want to name it. And then you can choose to add in a description if that's necessary. From there, you want to choose when the session is going to go live, so when you're going to be using this session. So you can choose the date and time, and then you choose the duration of how long the meeting is going to be held. You can also choose if this is a reoccurring meeting, which will help you in if you're going to be having a weekly meeting at this time. You don't have to schedule every single one. You'll just be able to choose, weekly, every week, on Friday, and it will end on, October 2nd. So there'll be, however many occurrences of that. So that will help you set up reoccurring meetings without having to go in there and make each individual one. Registration is, if you choose to require registration, the individuals are going to have to sign up for the session before they join. And that is not recommended because that is actually one more step for the students or the participants to have to do. In this case, you'll be able to give them the link. They'll just be able to click on it and join. So you probably don't want to require registration at this point. For meeting ID, you can just have it generate automatically. For security, you do want to add in a passcode. That is very important. That's going to have the session will have a passcode on it, and you will give that to the people who are supposed to join. And when they join in the session, they'll have to put in that passcode, and that's going to protect the session from other people who are not supposed to be joining in the session from being able to do so. So you can just put in a passcode, letters, numbers, whatever you like there. You can choose to use the waiting room if you like. The waiting room is basically a holding area before the individuals are taken into the Zoom area. It's a holding area. So basically, when they join, you'll get a notice if you're in the session saying somebody's in the waiting room, and then you have to admit them. That is an extra level of security, but it also means that you have to manually admit them. This can be problematic if a student's joining after you've already started your teaching session. You might be teaching away and not really paying attention and not really see that somebody's in the waiting room. And again, they can't join the session until you accept them in. So I personally choose not to turn on the waiting room so that people can just click in and join and move on forward without me having to accept them in, because I am afraid I might look over it or not see that while I'm teaching and forget to accept them in. So then you can choose if you want the host participants video on or off when they join. Once they get into the session, they can turn it on or off. So it's really based upon how it's going to be joining. Under audio, you do want to make sure that both is on because students can either join via their telephone so they can dial in, or they can use the computer audio, their speakers on their computer. So you do want to give both of them, you want to give them both options. And then finally, meeting options, you have to enable join before the host. So what this will do, I actually personally turn this on. What this will do is if the student wants to get in early, so maybe they want to join 5 minutes early, make sure their audio video works, etc., it will allow them to go ahead and join in the session, even if you as the host are not there. If you have this unchecked, which is the default, it is going to give them a message saying you will be accepted into the program or accepted into the session when the teacher joins. So that basically puts them in a holding tank again. It's up to you. I just personally like to enable them to join early so they can go ahead and get in, test their video, test their audio. Even if I'm running a few minutes late, it's not holding everybody else up. It's also encouraged to mute participants upon entry so that when they come into the session, they are already muted so that they're not saying things, doing things that others are hearing without them realizing that they're muted. Of course, they can click their button to unmute themselves to speak if they need to. Also, you want to make sure to record the meeting automatically into the cloud. This is going to, as soon as you join the session, it's going to start the recording of the video or the session, and it's going to drop it in the cloud area, which will be up here under the recordings area. So once we have all this set up, we're just going to save our session. And upon saving, we see that we have the ability to add this to our various calendars we might be using. We have the ability to copy this invitation, which is important because this is how your students are going to get in. You're going to choose copy the invitation, and you can just send them this whole area, this whole link here. You can send that to them. They're going to definitely need the meeting ID, the passcode, and the link to be able to join. So you want to make sure that's in there, but it gives them the phone numbers to call if they're going to dial in from their phone. So it's best just to copy this whole thing and send that to them or post it in D2L or however you're going to communicate with them to be able to join that session. So if you need to edit something about this session, you can come right down here and do edit this meeting, or later on you can just log into your account and go to the meetings area to see it here. And then you can choose to start the meeting, or you can click on it and then you can see the information and edit it if you need to. So that is how you create the session from the web-based interface. Let me show you how you do it from the application. Again, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just depending on, do you want to use the web or do you want to use the downloaded application that you have? So when I log into my application account, notice that the meeting that I just created is here on the left panel because these are in sync with each other. But I can go ahead and create a new meeting if I want to. So I can come to meetings, and then I can choose schedule a meeting up here with this plus icon, and I can schedule a meeting. And this is very similar to what we just filled out. So the name of the topic, the name of the session, the start date, how long it's going to last, is it going to be recurring, generate the meeting ID automatically, require a password, host video or participant video on or off, allowing both computer audio and telephone to be dialed in, and then you can come under advanced option and choose for the waiting room, join before host, mute participants upon entry, and then automatic recording in the cloud. So the exact same thing that we just filled out on the web is what you would fill out here in the application just by clicking meetings and then this little plus icon and schedule a meeting. Once you've created your meeting, here's the link to copy that invitation that we discussed earlier to be able to send or post for your students or the guests to be able to join your session. Another main area to use on the application is under the home area. You can join multiple or use multiple of these icons, so you can pretty much get to everything you want to here. You can come and schedule a new session, which is what we just did a minute ago. Or if you are going to join a session as a participant and you've already logged into the area, you can choose join and then you would just need to type in the meeting ID and then choose enter the meeting ID, and then it would ask you to put in the passcode, which would be given to you when you by the host of the session, and that would allow you to join into the meeting. So that's how you can join from the application if you were a participant in the session. And if you're joining from the web, you can just choose join a meeting, and then you would put in the meeting ID that would be given to you and the passcode, and you'd be able to join that way. So let's go ahead and start our meeting. So I can do this from the application just by choosing start here. If I'm in home, if I'm in the meetings area, I can choose start. Or if I am in my web-based application, I can just go to meetings and choose start. So multiple places you can use to start that meeting. So you choose start. And then it will ask if you want to join with your computer audio or if you want to call in. So again, call in is if you don't have speakers on your computer or a working microphone. But in this case, I'm just going to join with my computer audio. And it's going to open me up to the session. So this is what the session looks like. Notice at the top it is recording because as soon as I came into the session, it started recording. Also, it gave me information about the password and the invite link and so just in case somebody is needing to emails me and says, oh, I can't get into the session, what's the information? I can get it right here and copy it for them. Most of the main tools that you're going to see at the bottom are here at the running across the bottom. The speaking mute or unmute button is here. Notice that it's green right now, so that means that I am speaking into the session. They can hear me. I click it once to turn it back on. So those are my options. I can click this little arrow icon to switch to different speakers if I have different speakers that I want to use. Same thing with video. I click it once to turn it on, and it's going to pull my video, or I click it once to turn it off. So on and off as needed. And then I would be able to choose different videos if I want to. Now, some people get super fancy and they choose to use a virtual background. And so you can do this by using this arrow and choosing virtual background. And from here, it will pull your background on your camera, but then you can choose different backgrounds. Now, it works best if you have a solid color background because obviously it looks a little bit funny here. But if you have a solid color background, it usually works well, and it just gives you a different background. What you can also choose to do is you can come here to add an image, and you can add an image here to choose as your virtual background. So if you have an image of you on the beach or an image of you, at your favorite setting area, you can add that as an image, and it will be an option for you to choose as your virtual background. Again, definitely not something that's required, just a little something that is fun, but it is kind of important to make sure that you do have a solid background that you're working with, or if not, it'll look a little funny. The next area that you may want to consider is the participants area. So if you choose participants, it will show who is in the session here. So here I am, and then here's the student that is in my class. I only have one student in the class, but you would have a listing of everyone who's in the course with you, or in the session with you, and you can choose more beside them, and you can choose to rename them if you want to, put them in the waiting room if you decide I want to take a break from them or I need to have a discussion without them. You can put them in the waiting room and then accept them back in. But the main area that you'll be using here is to make them a co-host. So if perhaps you are passing them the ball, if you are allowing the student to present in the session, share their screen, whatnot for class presentations, you can come beside their name and make them a co-host, which will give them the ability to use the share screen features and to be able to interact that way. So that is under the participants area. We'll skip polls really quick and we'll go to chat. So under chat, this is where you can message everyone in the session. So this is a great text messaging area. You can message everyone, or you can choose to private message a certain student by clicking on their name. And these areas are collapsible, so if I don't want the participant panel open anymore, I can check the drop down and choose to close, and then that will give me the chat area open here. So again, I can message everyone or just a sample student. If I want to share a file with them to be downloaded, I can choose File. And then I can pick a file, and then they can actually, it will send them that file to be downloaded. So they're able to, um, I can pick a file and then send it to everyone, and then they will be able to click on it and download it. So that's the case of I'm wanting them to download the file. It may be after the session, I want them to have access to a file that I used in the session. So that is an option there. So that is all within the chat area. And again, you just press the chat area, chat to everyone, or privately share the files if you want to. And then you can also come right here and choose to save that chat, which will save all of the messages. That it will be in the recording anyways, but if you just want to save the chat as like a text file, you'll be able to do so there. So that is the chat area. Notice here, I'll skip over share screen and come back to it in a second, but notice that the pause, start, and stop recording is available here at the bottom. So we are currently recording. If I wanted to take a break for 5 minutes and just didn't want the recording to run for that long with nothing going on, I can choose to pause it. And then when I'm ready to resume the recording, I can just press resume. And then that way you won't have any wasted time in the middle of your recording. So the next thing is the share screen, which you'll be using pretty often if you're going to do anything more than just share your audio and share your video in the session. So if you choose share screen, it's going to give you the option of some things to share. So you can share your computer screen, you can share files that you already have open on your computer, or you can even share a whiteboard area. So I'll show you the whiteboard area first. So if you choose, again, it was share screen and then whiteboard and then share, it's going to give you a blank whiteboard area that you can use to draw on. So I can maximize this, and notice I have a floating toolbar here that has my main tools up here, my mute, my video, my participants, all that good stuff. But notice up here I have a drawing panel as well. And so I can move this around to kind of give myself some more space. But basically I would just use the draw button, and I would draw on my screen or write on my screen. I can change, the sizing of what I'm looking at. I can erase if I want to certain things, or I can just clear the whole screen if I want to. In some cases, I may want to use shapes, so I can come and choose these shapes and draw out shapes if I want to, and then write in the shapes. And now students will also have access to do this to where they can choose and use and write on the screen as well, or it can be that they just watch me. In addition to writing, I can also use text, so I can click and have a message here, and then the students can use their text on their whiteboard area that they're using and post a message as well, so that we're able to see back and forth. They're able to communicate back and forth as to what is being shown. Again, if you want to clear this, you can just choose to clear all the drawings. But before you do so, you can actually save this whiteboard area. So we can choose save, and it will save the whiteboard. If we choose to show in folder, it's actually going to show up in your on your computer in your documents area. There's going to be a Zoom folder that is auto created, and when you click on that Zoom folder, you'll be able to click on whatever session you were using, and then it will be able to show you any saved things. So in this case, I saved the whiteboard as an image file that I might use later, send to my students, etc. So then I can clear it and move on. When I'm done sharing my screen, done sharing the whiteboard, I can stop share. Now keep in mind that there's also a pause share, so it might be that I have this drawn out and I want my students to stop and think about something for a little while. So I can choose pause the share, and then that will actually pause this and allow me to open up something on my computer and send an email or pull up something that we're going to be getting ready to do in a minute, and they're just seeing my screen. And then when I'm ready to resume it, I click resume, and then it carries on. So in a way, it kind of froze the screen to where the students saw the whiteboard while I was able to do something in the background if you're multitasking in that regard. Two extra tools that might be helpful in the whiteboard is actually over here under more. One of them is to disable participants annotation. So say that you're writing on the screen, you're drawing on the screen, and you don't want students to be able to write with you at that point. It might be that you want to show them a concept and then turn on the annotation to where they can collaborate and write on the screen with you. So in that case, you can choose more and then disable their annotation so that the students will be able to view the whiteboard, but they're not able to annotate on it. And then if you're ready for them to annotate, you can always come back and give them that permission. Another option is to, under more, show names of annotators so that when a student is writing on the screen or drawing, it actually posts their name there so you can see who is saying what. So for example, when I'm writing on the screen, notice you see it has my name, sample student, which is what I'm logged in as. You can see that my name is on there. So you're able to see who is doing what there. And so that can also be helpful if you're having multiple students. And again, this is with the typing here. If you're having multiple students drawing right on the screen, you'll be able to see who is saying what. So when we are done sharing our screen, we can just choose Stop Share. That'll take us back to the main area. Another thing that you might choose to share is your screen itself, as well as different items that you might have on your screen, PowerPoints, Word documents, etc. So if I wanted to just share a web page, I can choose which screen I want to share. So, I have two screens on my computer, so you might only have one. So I would choose to share that screen and share it. And then whatever I pull up on my computer is what my students will be seeing. So in this case, whatever I'm sharing on my screen, my students are able to see. So I can just open up a new tab and go to whatever website I want to go to. And again, this is what my students are seeing. And I still have this control bar that I can move around to kind of control some of the aspects of what I'm sharing and what I'm doing. Again, mute and unmute, that type of thing. I can also annotate on top of the website. So I can choose annotate here and I can use my drawing and write on the screen, um, highlight different things, that type of thing. So you can kind of annotate on top of the page there. Notice something that's a little bit funny. When you move the page, though, it doesn't stay with what is being drawn on. So you want to make sure to clear it out when you're going to a different area in here. But again, it is beneficial if you're trying to make a point on certain things. You're able to draw on those. And this is true for websites, PowerPoints, anything like that. So I can clear those drawings and maybe I want to pull up a Word document. So I would just come in and find a Word document, open it up on my computer, because whatever is on my screen, I am sharing and they are able to see. So in this case, I pulled up my PowerPoint on top of my screen, and so I'm able to share that with my students. I'm able to click through it. My students are able to see what we're looking at. I'm able to use the draw feature to draw on it if I want to. I can even have it to where they can type on the screen, even build like an interactive screen to where I ask them a question and then they type on it. And so again, this is all what can be used when you're sharing your screen and using that annotate tool. Something that might be important when you're sharing your screen, so when you're doing a new share, it may be important for you to check the share computer sound. And this is in cases to where you are going to play a YouTube video or a video through the Zoom session. So you're going to be playing the video and it's going to be running through the Zoom session. You want to have this button clicked so that the audio from the YouTube video or the video will play through the audio in the session so that they can hear it. So if you're going to be watching a video together or something in that regard, you do want to check here to share this computer sound so that they will be able to hear it through the system. So when we're finished sharing, we simply choose Stop Sharing, and it takes us back to our main area. So the last thing to talk about on the actual Zoom area here is the polls. And you'll see this when you're sharing your screen, when you're doing all different types of things. So here's polls if I'm just sharing my video and my audio, but if maybe I'm sharing my screen, you'll also see that the polls is right here on this mini bar as we're floating around. So this will allow you to ask questions as your students are interacting or as you're teaching your lesson. It will allow you to ask impromptu questions. So you can choose polls and you can add a question. And what it will do is it'll pull up a page here so where you can very quickly type in and add in a question. So I type in my question here. Have you used Zoom before? Yes or no. And then I'm able to save that question really quick. So when I am in my session, I'll just be able to choose polls and then I'll be able to choose what poll I want to use and launch that poll. And then this will actually show up on the area for my students to be able to choose. So this will pop up and then they can just answer the question and submit it. And then it gives me a progress of what everyone answered. So then when everyone gets completed, it lets me know that everyone has voted in the session. It even gives me a countdown so I can say you're going to have 30 seconds to answer the poll, whatever. It gives me that countdown. And then I can end the polling. And then I can choose to share the results if I want to, and that will show this to the entire class. Now, this is beneficial to ask survey-like questions, things like have you used Zoom before, that kind of thing. But it's also great if you want to ask content questions. So, you talk about a topic, you share your screen, you share your files, and then maybe you have a poll that you ask them an actual content question. They answer it, and then you're able to get this data immediately to say, yes, they're understanding it, or no, they're not, or oh, I need to review this misconception, or whatnot. So it allows the students to be interactive in the session, but it also gives you some data to work with as you're teaching the session. And so if you're wanting to do another poll in this session, you can just click polls and edit. It'll open up that page. And then you can come in and type in another poll and launch it. The last option to discuss, and you do want to make sure that it is turned on in your settings, is the use of breakout rooms. So you'll notice earlier in the session I didn't have it turned on in my account settings, so you didn't see it listed here. So you want to make sure that it is turned on to be able to do this. And breakout rooms are essentially making groups within your session. So it's very much the equivalent of being in the classroom, having one group in one corner, one group in another corner, etc. So you're all in this one session, but you're going to make breakout groups to where each is in their own session or in a session with other members. So to create your breakout groups, you'll just choose breakout groups. You can choose to assign the participants. You can choose how many rooms you want to have. So, if you have 15 people, do you want 15 rooms, one in each room? Do you want 6 rooms and then it divides out? Do you want 2 rooms? So however you want them to be divided out. And then you can choose to automatically put the students in breakout rooms, which is going to randomly put them in there. Or you can choose to manually assign them to rooms, which would be in the case of you've already set up the groups and you want to manually move them into the appropriate room based upon their group. So in this case, I only have one person in the room, but when you choose however many, it's going to tell you how many people are going to be in the room. So if there were, 10 rooms, and I have 20 people in the session, it would say, 2 people per room. So then I create the rooms. So here they are. If I had chose to randomly make the groups, it would automatically randomly assign them. But since I chose to manually assign them, then I'll be able to choose the different breakout rooms. I can come to choose assign, and then I would pick the students that need to go into that room. So it would give me a list of all the students that need to go into that room. I can also rename them if I want to. I can choose rename if I don't want it breakout group 1 or 2. If they have particular titles, I can rename that as well. If these rooms were messed up and I say, I really want to start over, I can choose recreate and then re-pick how I want these to be done. So like if I did them automatically and recreate my rooms, it would automatically randomly put the students into rooms. Couple more options down here. You can choose that once you choose to open the rooms, all the participants will move out to the breakout room automatically. You probably do want that. You can choose to allow the participants to return to the main session at any time. I personally don't turn that on because when I'm ready for them to return to the main room, then we will do that. You can choose when you want them to automatically close. You can choose to manually close them when you think everybody's done. So in that case, you don't check that button. Or if you know, hey, I'm going to give them 2 minutes, hey, I'm going to give them 1 minute, then you can choose to put that in there. If you do have it to where it is automatically going to close, you can choose to notify me to let me know when that time is up. And then you can even choose to have a countdown timer. So if this is 1 minute, I can set the countdown timer so that they know how much time they have in the breakout room. So those are just extra options. And then I open all my breakout rooms. That will move all of the students into their appropriate breakout room. So now in their breakout room, it gives them a message saying, hey, you are in that particular breakout room. And they're able to share their screen, chat, audio, all that good stuff as if they were in their own room. Now, what you're able to do as the instructor or the host of this session, notice it shows you how in progress it is, so it's giving you that countdown. You can message all students here, so you can say, just a few more minutes, and broadcast that, and that will send that to all participants in all of the sessions. So that's a great way if you need to communicate to everybody in the session, you can do so there. You can also choose to join sessions to pop in and check on people. So I can choose join, and that will let me join in session 1, and I'll be able to talk and discuss with that particular breakout group. So I'm now in breakout 1, and I'm able to talk and join with them. So now my time is up. So I had it up for just that 1 minute. So I'll choose time is up for the 1 minute breakout room. Do you wish to close them all? It might be that I say, you know what, I'm going to give you a little bit more time and I'll keep the breakout rooms open. Or when it is time for people to leave and when I'm ready for people to end, I can choose to go ahead and close all those rooms. Or I can myself leave the breakout room and join in on another breakout room. So when the session is over, you can choose to end down here at the bottom right corner. You can choose to leave the meeting just yourself, or you can choose to end the meeting for everyone. So if you leave the meeting just yourself, that's allowing everyone else in the room to still continue on with the meeting. So if it's something like, hey, I'm going to leave and you guys can continue to talk if you want to, then you can just yourself leave the meeting. If you say, okay, the entire session is over, we're ending the session, then you would end the meeting for all. So the last thing is to find those recordings. So to get to the recording of your session, if you're in the app, you would just go to the meetings area at the top, choose recorded. So they'll be upcoming and recorded. So you want to make sure to choose recorded. Choose the meeting that you want to view. Open that up. And then you'll be able to share that information. Make sure that it is public. And then you can choose to display that information and then copy this, and it'll have the meeting room and all that stuff to be able to share with your users. So either put it in email or post it in D2L or whatever you're going to do. You can make it to where it's password protected if you want to make it a little bit more secure. So if you want to do that, you turn on password protection, type in the password that you want it to have, and that will be included in the link that you send to them. So that'll make it a little bit more secure. If you're doing this from the web, it's the same thing. So you'll just be logged into your account, and so here's where your meetings are. You'll just come over to recordings and you'll pick the recording you want to share. Then you'll choose share, make sure it's public. You can choose to put a password protection if you want to, and then copy this information and send it to your users. And so that this kind of wraps up how all the different features that you can use in Zoom.